This is the DRC meeting for Korean Mission Church. I am Christina Sorrento. I'm the chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division, and your lead reviewer is Jonathan Casey. Jonathan will bring up the plan shortly and highlight any of the major issues we should discuss, and then turn it over to the applicant. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Jonathan, go ahead.
Good morning. As already been stated, I'm Jonathan Casey with Up County Planning. This is Korean Mission Church. The property is located on 108, almost to the Howard County line. And just a quick visual. This application is to subdivide the existing property into two lots, one for an existing house on well and septic, and one for the Korean Mission Church. First off, I just want to clarify on my comments, and actually clarify in general, that the daycare use that is associated with the church does not require a conditional use, contrary to my interpretation. DPS, I believe, is on the line, and they can speak a little bit more to that if you'd like. It's pretty straightforward. The existing house is being retained, new septic established, and then a new church built on this lot. I would say the two big ticket items are, one, the building placement. Staff is requesting that the building be pushed up further towards the road, and possibly shifting the pavilion area so that the buildings are a little more prominent on the road. We do have some very preliminary sketches that are kind of in the works right now. They're, again, very, very conceptual, and I will distribute those in the next day or two. The other item is the existing graveyard. There will be some additional work associated with that graveyard. As you go forward, you'll need to coordinate with Brian Crane and go through the process that's established for delineating burial sites. With that, pass it to, I believe, Sue will be doing the speaking.
You're on mute if you're.
Yep, I got it. Good morning. Sue Lee Cho with Bregman, Burbert, Schwartz, and Gilday on behalf of the applicant, Korean Mission Church. We have our team of engineers from Van Mar here with me, and we've had a chance to review the DRC comments that were provided. Appreciate, Jonathan, your sum up, and we'll look forward to seeing the sketch that you all are working on. On that issue, I would like to say that the team, there is a reason placement for the site, the building the way it is, and we understand the comment about trying to kind of push it toward the street. The topography of the site, and it allows for, based on the placement, to minimize the height of the building, the church building, as it is viewed from the street. We believe setting it back from the street would allow for screening and would be more in character with some of the comments that we're getting on the master plan, the rural nature of this area, trying to balance those interests. And it would allow for kind of a basement level, a lower level below the grade at the front of the property, but exposed on the backside. That would facilitate, the church use. And so as you push the building toward the street, we don't have that ability to use the grade to the advantage. as you can imagine, if you construct the parking lot or try to behind the building, we run into the issue of retaining walls and a lot of significant, we believe, increase cost of construction that puts this project into potentially it's just more difficult and costly to construct. So there are reasons why the parking lot is located where it is toward the street. But we understand the need to screen it and maintain shield the view of the parking lot as much as possible. So those are our perspective on that, but certainly we'll look at the sketch that you all are preparing to give to us. This is not an urban environment, so we thought that setting the building back from the street would not be as much of an issue in this part of the county.
Yeah, I think just to clarify, I think as far as the parking goes, I don't think our goal was necessarily to have all of the parking behind the building, maybe just shift some of it to the side, just so it isn't as prominent out in the front. And obviously we understand this is not an urban environment. We were just thinking about shifting the building up a little bit, not completely up to the 50-foot BRL, but we'll look at the grades a little bit more on what we had come up with for concepts and see if that will continue to meet your needs. And if it doesn't, we can discuss it.
Yeah, so I think the input's helpful, understanding where you're coming from. Maybe there's a middle ground that we can still, get sort of a presence like we would like to see, but still allow you to work with the grade. Maybe not bring it all the way to the road like, we would typically like, but maybe a middle ground. So let's, like Jonathan said, I'm just reiterating what he's saying. I think this was helpful, and we'll go back and look at that as well with you.
Okay, great. The other kind of grouping of comments that we noticed, and we just would like to use the time today to maybe start the conversation. We certainly will not conclude the issue. We noticed, the transportation, kind of the frontage improvement comments with the side path, street buffer. They seem to, and state highways comments, we are trying to reconcile some of them. It may not be, some of the numbers we saw did not marry up exactly with each other on some of the comments. There was a 10-foot side path versus a minimum 6-foot sidewalk, that kind of thing. So I don't know, Jonathan, if we should have a separate meeting to hash out the cross-section. I know your comments, you had a number of places where you said we need a cross-section. We agree. We need to come to terms with the cross-section.
Yeah, and I think you probably noticed there are a bunch of comments that repeated themselves probably 4 or 5 times. That was not emphasis added. That was just E-Plan's work. But yeah, we can discuss the actual cross-section. It would probably be best just to consolidate the meeting instead of having multiple meetings, but again, I can talk to our transportation staff and DOT, and we can work out the details as far as any conflicts that you may have seen, and then we can hash all that out.
I do have, I think I have Nick Dribbin, Lenhart guys. Are you guys on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Nick, did you want to add anything to the state highway comments on the acceleration, deceleration?
Yeah, good morning. Nick Dribbin with Lenhart Traffic. I mean, I think that our question regarding the acceleration, deceleration, potential need, obviously we're familiar with the access manual and what that calls for. And I think that can probably roll into a bigger picture discussion on the cross section in general. Obviously the character of the rural road out here, and there's not acceleration or deceleration lanes really anywhere along this section of Ashton Road. And so I think, just big picture, we're just kind of looking to understand how those fit in or don't fit in, or, where we're going with the overall cross section. So I think that's something if we could get Kwesi or someone from SHA able to attend the general cross-section discussion, I think that would be probably a better place to discuss. And then the other thing I would quickly touch on is I know there were a couple comments about site distance. Kwesi sent, we had some correspondence about that as well. And site distance wise, there's going to have to be some foliage and kind of clearing along the frontage. And I think that with the expanded cross section we're talking about versus what's shown on the plan now, I think that actually will kind of take care of itself. So we understand we need to update the site distance documentation to comply with that with SHA's form, and we'll take care of that.
A real quick question, as far as the driveway location, was that a result of kind of the desired design, or is that a really for site distance? So is there an option to shift that entrance one way or another?
It's, I mean, to the east of the site, there's a curve along Ashton, and to the west, it's a little bit less of a curve, but still there. So to some extent, it is where it is, I think, because of site distance. There may be the ability to shift it slightly, but I think that kind of, positioning relative to those curves is a key factor of being able to meet the site distance criteria.
Okay.
Kwesi, did you have anything to add to that?
No. When you guys meet for the cross sections, hopefully I'll be available and I'll join. But I understand what Nick is saying with regard to the axle decel. And I mean, just looking at it, I think the site distance will work. Because I mean, they're just based on where the access is placed, but I think it is workable. But we'll discuss the decel axle at the meeting.
I'm sorry, Kwesi, I'm trying to understand. So are you saying that your SHA is likely requesting an XL decel, or that because of the site distance working well, that you would not feel the need to do that?
No. Based on the PCAR trips, I think some form of decel is required. And just looking at the site, a separate issue, I think the site distance will work.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, once we look at it some more.
Sure. If we can, I would like to look at, maybe the speed of the road. The master plan very much calls for this to remain a 2-lane road and discourages, I believe, specifically XL decel lanes. So if that is going to be something that SHA is pursuing, I think we need to talk through that, because we have a plan specifically recommending against that. And I would really like to look at perhaps other ways we can slow down target speeds, and anything we can do to that end to honor the master plan and its recommendations. It would be our preference.
Okay.
So yeah, if we're at all moving that direction, please let us know. We'll have to set up those meetings to discuss that.
Okay.
Okay, and then just on the comment, as you could tell from the statement of justification, I went back and forth on the conditional use question myself. So I'm glad to hear that we have a definitive answer from the Department of Permitting Services. This daycare use being housed as part of a place of worship, there is language in the zoning ordinances, I think you're referring to, that essentially there's no specific conditional use requirements. It's exempt. So, but I wasn't sure if we still had to sort of paper it nonetheless with a conditional. I really didn't see the point of it, but not knowing for sure, I was hoping to get a definitive answer on that at DRC, and I welcome hearing from DPS that there is no conditional use application required. is there someone here from DPS?
Yeah, I'm here, Sue. This is Trisha
Oh,
Wolford. How
hey.
are you?
Good.
Yeah, the section 344B specifically states that any property or building that is owned by a religious assembly, a daycare use is exempt from the conditional use requirement. So and under daycare, that covers elderly daycare, children, disabled persons, whatever would be exempt from having to go through the conditional use process. So that's something we have always upheld here at DPS, and it's always been exempt. So I know of no paper process or anything you have to do other than you are held to that exemption. So
Okay,
We-
great to
we
hear.
will-
Thank you.
Sorry. So we will still want a landscaping and lighting plan for the purposes of the parking lot.
And we did file a landscape and lighting plan.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify because some of my comments may have overlapped with my stating that a conditional use was required. I don't want
Okay.
that. You still need a landscape and lighting plan.
Understood. I think that exhausts what we wanted to cover for today. I think the cross-section issue is something we need to meet separately on. The fire access comments were, as always, very clear and understandable from Marie, so we will address those. And we didn't see anything on the FCP of significant note, so is there anything else from you, Jonathan, that you wanted to make sure we covered?
I mean, I could make some stuff up on the fly.
No.
I think we're good. Obviously we have some follow-up to do on this. And if any little stuff comes up, we can discuss it then.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Morning. ARC meeting for Dragoni property. I'm Christina Sorrento. I'm the chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division. And this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Your lead reviewer is Jeff Server, and Jeff will highlight any of the major items we should discuss and then turn it over to you. So go ahead, Jeff.
Hi, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Major issues that we're seeing right now on Dragoning are some of them are issues that we've discussed along the way throughout the different the other applications that preceded this one. To hit the really high level ones, the first one is, I guess, more of a question, and in looking at the block configuration for that northeast block, the A block, it seems like the property lines have changed. I know we're very appreciative to see the alley now making the full extension and the connection through there, but in the process of that, it seems that now the property lines for those individual lots are now extending into the alleyway. And I understand that is to meet the minimum lot size requirement. The question, though, I guess that I have is, it also seems that the stormwater facilities expanded considerably in the areas sort of to the north of, not the ones that are down along the street where the extension now connects, but the ones that are kind of more mid-block up closer to Kings Valley Road. And I guess I was just curious as to why those may have expanded so much, and if in the process of expanding, that may have led to having to provide these lot line extensions into the alleyway. So ideally, I'm sorry, I'll give you a chance to answer in just a second. Ideally, we'd like to see the lot lines pulled back such that the alley can be on its own individual parcel, rather than actually having them extend into sort of the center line of that alley. So that's one. And that's probably by far the biggest one. The second one has to do with the open space. And we did discuss some of this during the course of the preliminary plan review. And I think it's something that we'll need to address during the course of this review, is looking at how that use and access easement works in tandem with the property lines also extending into the open space. And then sort of appended to that also, and it would be really nice to see the stormwater management facilities designed in a way that are more integrated with what that open space is. So the recreational amenities. So I see there's a playground now, and it looks like there's some boulders or things for children to climb on, but it'd be nice to see if the stormwater facilities could be minimized or designed in a manner that is very complementary to the recreational amenities that are being provided there. So it's much more of an integrated design where stormwater becomes a feature rather than just a requirement that's being fulfilled. So I think that's something that can be addressed moving through the review process. And then the other one is there's a small outfall where the asphalt trail is being provided just closer to Kings Valley Road. And it looks like there's an outfall that is draining right out into the steeper part of the slopes. It's roughly right about there. And it was just sort of a question mark as to how that's going to be handled. And it raises concerns about erosion and other issues, which I'll let Doug speak to. And then also along Kings Valley Road, there was also a question. I know, Kate, this is something that you brought up, and we've talked about this on the phone, but about the termination of the sidewalk along Kings Valley Road and sort of where that's going to stop and how that's going to be handled. I know there are some grading concerns that run with that. So by and large, those are the big picture comments from our side. I'm happy to let you actually answer those questions and also turn it over to other agencies to provide feedback and comments.
More than happy to talk about it now. Otherwise, we can also set up a meeting to discuss these. We've got a couple things we're looking into.
Okay.
And I'd be more than happy to talk about those. We are looking at the stormwater management. I think the parcels maybe got bigger, but the stormwater itself, the surface area actually is less than. But we can talk about that when we meet. And the rest of the stuff we're also looking into as well. So maybe we can set up a meeting in the next week or so.
Sure.
Great.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah, the private alley, we know that, or you wanted the alley connected, and, we weren't happy with that, but I think we found a solution. So we hope that you'll be able to work with us to make that happen, because I think the way I read the resolution, make best efforts or whatever to extend the alley, which I think we are, but we will need to,
Sure.
cooperate. So.
Understood. Thanks. So, DOT.
Yeah, just say that was a nice surprise and a good problem to have. So
But I mean, I think we have 30 minutes here if you wanted to
Yeah.
delve into any of this or, um,
For some reason or other, we're, are they on the line?
I'm trying to, the civil engineer is supposed to be with us and they're the ones that are looking into a lot of this and have kind of more of the detailed information. So I don't know if they're online.
yeah, anyone online with the applicant, the engineering side?
EPJ.
I don't see them.
That's what I.
Yeah, well, we apologize for that.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, and obviously catching you flat-footed, so that's
Yeah, we did go through yesterday with them, the litany of issues. Most of them are very technical and minor.
There we go.
So, they don't look to be problems. We got neighbors?
They're here.
There they are, all right.
Suggesting to Jeff that one.
Oh, no. Hey, guys. Jeff just went through 4 issues that he feels are the most important to talk about. One is the alley, that we talked about yesterday, the open space and how it's integrated with, the stormwater, the outfall that runs out to King Valley Road, and determination of the sidewalk. So we had initially said, well, why don't we set up a meeting to talk about those?
Like we talked about, yeah.
But then the immediate response, well, we got 30 minutes here, so maybe we can
Okay.
check something off. So do you have a feel for which of those would be the most fruitful to discuss now?
Well, I think the internal green space area, that's easy enough. We just need to blow that up for you and give you more detail. I think probably the biggest issue is going to be the alley.
But on the open space for a minute, just so it's clear. So, and Jeff, if I misstate something, I wrote down how the use and access easement works and the stormwater more integrated. So minimizing it, but integrating it as a potential feature of the open space.
Well, and we think we've done that where we have these large boulders that are actually stepping stones. So it becomes more interactive for kids using it. And then what we're going to have with the plantings and everything else. But we can work with you on that as we go through that. But we do want the stormwater management to be integral to the actual design.
Okay.
So that it's more of a feature for the kids and stuff as well.
All right, well, that seems to be a mutual objective. Yes.
Yeah, and to say, Kate had also said that between the preliminary plan and then this plan that believe the stormwater features actually had been minimized in size. Is that correct? That between the former plan, this plan, that you actually think you've made progress in that area?
Necessarily minimized, but they haven't increased in
Jeff
size.
initially thought they had increased and Kate said she didn't think they had. Do you?
No, I don't think they had. We had to provide additional stormwater for the alley, but they haven't increased in size. And if anything, we're submitting a revised stormwater concept that goes along with the site plan to DPS.
It may just be how it was depicted on the plans, because we compared the two, and it did look like this one shows a little bit larger area, but it may be because you refine the grading a little bit on this plan.
Oh, the
Yeah,
grading was
we did.
much more refined.
Yes.
Parcels have increased a scotch here and there. Also looks like the one, not on the sheet, but there's actually a pipe that it was on a private lot that is now integrated into kind of connecting the two triangles that is now within the HOA parcel instead of going through the private lots.
The one coming from the facilities out by Kings Valley?
Yeah, from the top.
Yes.
Right to.
Just gonna make one more quick point about the open space. We agree with everything that you said to incorporate the stormwater management facilities with the design and use recreation of that space. Just want to point out that we'll have to include DPS stormwater management, Mark Etheridge, on those discussions. It's
Okay.
not just us.
I agree.
And that we've had a very recent successful example in Park Potomac in which we used a existing stormwater management facility to add some amenities to it and recreation.
Has it been built or retrofitted or whatever?
I think that it's in the works. I don't
Okay.
think it has been completed yet. But we want to kind of replicate that idea and that notion. And we're prepared to work together with DPS Stormwater Management on it. We've had a conversation with them already. I believe Jeff spoke with Mark Etheridge specifically about this, and it's very important for
Good.
both of us.
I agree.
To get that. Mark, if you're on the call, feel free to chime in.
I am here, yes, and I'm chiming right now. I'm very supportive of the idea of incorporating these, especially these smaller landscaped practices, into some sort of an effort to make them more accessible to people and more valued, so that they become better maintained and become more of an asset than just a detriment over there in the corner somewhere. So we're very interested in getting this cooperation accomplished. I think the other project was a bit more of an issue with trying to work some things into an older style, larger, more traditional practice. But certainly the concept is still the same. Try to integrate these things as much as we can while maintaining access and the ability to maintain them. Yep.
No, this one couldn't be more out in the open, so.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
We had spoken with Mark about this a while ago prior to actually, proposing any stepping stones or anything in the facility to see if DPS would be amenable to it. He was.
Okay, so you'll follow up with Jeff and,
And Mark, yeah.
And Mark. Okay. All right, so the outfall to the trail, that should be fairly simple, I think. Okay. You mentioned erosion because of the steep bank there or something. Right?
Yep.
So, all right. All right, well, you want to talk about the alley? And what I mentioned to them was that the preliminary plan approval said, extend that alley if it's feasible. And so, while we were not thrilled with that idea, we've worked out how to do it, but because of minimum lot size requirements, we think it has to be an easement on those lots. And in our SOJ that we submitted with the preliminary plan, we asked for a waiver of the subdivision regulations to the extent it is required. So I think you have the authority to do that. The question, I guess, is, did you have a different approach to doing that we missed?
Not at this time. It was more a question, just trying to understand what happened in the course of the preliminary plan to this plan, but also acknowledging that there is the extension of the alley now being accounted for. So it was more of a sort of a big picture question as to, why are we now seeing this configuration in this manner, whereas it wasn't shown that way.
And just so you're aware, because of site distance issues, it did have to become one way.
Right. That was understood.
All right. And I think
That was understood.
once we got into doing the layout, we're looking at minimum lot size, needed to provide stormwater management, and also wanted to provide the alley. The only way to accomplish all three of those goals, and without losing any lots, which was also, one of the prerequisites, it ended up having to be the way that it is now. That's the only way we could get it to work and provide everything that was required.
One possible way to split the baby, if you will, that Kate was just suggesting to me out at lobby there, is that we could show the easement on the plat. It wouldn't be a separate parcel, but it would be an easement clearly on the plat for public record, so that, it achieves, to me, all the objectives of platting a parcel. And I think that's probably the best solution if you want to, think about that.
You need to amend your preliminary plan?
That's
what it sounds like to me. An outsider.
Yeah. I was afraid you'd say that. That was the other thing Kate said. I certainly rather not have to do that. We don't want to, number one, we're gonna be in hot water with the property owner if we delay this anymore. We've been around so long with preliminary plan, et cetera, and the owner is getting up in age and wants to complete the transaction. So I wouldn't want that to delay it.
I mean, we've had projects before where we shifted lot lines and moved things around. And we haven't had to go back to preliminary plan. Had
This
the
was
detailed site plan.
if we're talking about the alley issue alone, then I think, well, again, we can go back, we'll have to discuss this with legal, but I think the board very much contemplated two scenarios where you would either have an alley or you wouldn't, and a connection or not. So again, I'm not the final authority on this. I would just say that there was definitely some contemplation. There was an either or, so there's probably some flexibility, but I would need our legal staff to agree with that interpretation of the opinion that was issued. So that's a question that we'll need to, I think we need to provide you the answer. So
that would be great. And from my perspective, we're not changing the number of lots. We're not changing the location of lots. We're not changing.
you know, that was
the
debated
roads.
quite a bit.
99 and 44, 100% of it is the same. So, yeah. Okay. So are you going to follow up with
Yes,
legal
yeah,
and
we
let
will-
us know
we
that?
will follow up with
Thank
that.
you, Patrick.
Our first, as Jeff mentioned, our first question and I guess direction was if there's any way for you to shrink those stormwater management facilities, you might have enough room for the lots to meet the minimum lot size, and therefore you would have room for the alley to be on its own parcel. So that's still our preference. That's still what we would ask you to explore. Just because on the preliminary plan that the alley that was shown on the preliminary plan was on its own parcel, correct, Jeff?
Yeah, that's the upper part. Yeah.
The upper part, it was. So we understood that. It was just when you extended, we understand you needed that additional square footage. And we also saw additional square footage being taken away for stormwater management facilities, the parcels. So if there's any way that that can be tweaked and you can look at it, there might be an opportunity to still have the alley on its own private parcel, which is what we would recommend.
We understand that, but the increase in the imperviousness just
Yeah,
doesn't
we
allow.
did look at it and we did try and get it off lot, but with the increase in pervious area, plus having to move the facilities around to facilitate the alley, we were not able to, we barely got this to work.
So what you're telling me is that you've explored all of those other options that we are suggesting now. Got it.
Yeah. If I could have brought it with to you and showed you it not on the lots, I would.
Yeah, let's just have a follow-up then if you can walk us
Sure.
through. We try to catch up to where you're at.
And Mr. Harris,
And then
just
we'll have the answers, I think through that discussion, we'll have an answer whether or not, any amendments necessary or not.
We think it's an appropriate solution. It gets the alley that you guys want, and yet it preserves the number of lots that the board was, with us on. So, okay. And hopefully we can avoid any preliminary plan amendment because
Right.
I'll be in hot water if we got to get to another proceeding. Okay, the alley, the open space, the outfall we're talking about. Kings Valley Road determination of the sidewalk.
I think I'm working with the retaining wall guy just to kind of see what we can do. There's, it's not only the grades, but it's also that AT&T easement. You've got the right of way and then you've got a very small space and then you've got the AT&T easement that's been on this property for a long time. It's my understanding that that's for a pretty large transmission line from AT&T that's been around for a while. So I'm trying to figure out what's feasible with how far we can extend that sidewalk down and how we extend that sidewalk down. And I will have more technical information for you guys when we get for you to talk about the alley and spot.
Before we run out of time, because we've got about 10 minutes, I wanted to leave some room for other agencies or if you guys have.
Yeah, sure.
Why don't we have Sam maybe cover some of his comments, and then if there's needed coordination with DOT, I think they're on the call as well.
Yeah, we had the preliminary plan and they had the extensive amount of comments as most probably knows about it. A lot of the comments seems to have been worked out with DOT at that stage, but they were not uploaded onto the e-plan at that time. So just a matter of coordinating and see which of the comments can be addressed here. Further, I've already received the meeting request from Tim, and we're going to sit down and go through the comments, and hopefully we can address most of them.
And on that point, we're working very diligently, again, time-wise, to keep the current planning board date. And that means we've got to make any final resubmission. What did we say yesterday?
May 3rd?
May 3rd, I think. But we will do that, and hopefully maybe even in advance of that. But, again, we indulge you to please, work with that so that we don't miss our planning board date. Thanks.
Other questions or anything? Other agencies?
I think that's it.
Mr. Harrison, do want to clarify, you'd mentioned a waiver for
Yes.
the alley issue. It wouldn't be a waiver, it's just the board needs to approve
Oh.
it. Specifically, it's more of a
That's even better.
integrated into the findings.
It's, with the W word. Yeah, okay. I thought it was a waiver. That was my bad. Okay, thank you. All right. Anything else?
Good, I'll follow up. I have
Good to see everybody. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Sorry, we're late.
don't want to waste your time. I'm Christina Sorrento. I'm the Chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division. This is the DRC meeting for 5315 Goldsboro Road. Marco Fuster is your lead reviewer. Marco, you need for the plan. Ariel, can you pull up the?
Sure, yeah.
This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Marco, do you want to highlight any of the major items we should discuss?
Yeah, so the number of things, one being the existing retaining walls need some clarifications. On the one side, it wasn't so clear as to which, if any, portion of the wall is being retained or rebuilt, and any, if it weren't, any grading associated with that. Then wall on the other side seems to be nearing the end of its lifespan. Might be a good idea to explore how stable that is, or explore potentially reconstructing it. Then there's a extensive letter prepared by the community that you received yesterday morning. Some of the concerns overlap with the DRC comments. There's some other points raised, such as exploring the extension of the side path to the corner. And our transportation planner has been looking into that with some of the other lead agencies on that. But in general, yeah, some cleanups needed, but I think the comments were pretty straightforward. Happy to answer any questions or get into any details you'd like.
Yeah, I just have a few to go over here. We have talked in the past with other reviewers regarding noise studies. That's going to be probably a 4 to 6, maybe 8-week process to go through. So as far as resubmittal time, maybe an extension might be needed for that. That discipline seems to be very busy right now. We have been quoted 16 to 18 weeks from other companies, but that is in progress. As you brought up, the main thing is the side path and the impacts to the specimen trees along Goldsboro Road. And I obviously need clarification on where that can go. And I mean, even moving it back, we're still in the structural root zones of those trees. Obviously, we want to save trees as much as we can. These are specimen trees out here. But even moving it back, I don't see how we're limiting, the disturbance to those trees. And if we look at what the comments related to the on-lot trees and adjusting LOD to be farther away from structural or critical root zones, how that goes to the public right-of-way trees and how those are being saved versus some questionable trees on the property.
So the closer you are to the trunk, the more damage you're going to cause. However, there are ways that you can preserve those trees. So one of the comments was to provide a certified arborist report, and they can definitely guide you, which direction you need to go, because by providing a certain distance from a couple of feet from the trunk, that will help those trees to survive. And also by using some measurement like root pruning, matting, those kind of measurement will definitely help. There's definitely room to save those trees.
Okay.
But you will have to coordinate with the transportation planner and the other agencies so they can, modify and try to address the sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's going to be a further discussion on sidewalk, the grading required to make that happen, proximity to the tree. But then it goes back to the on-lot trees and being farther away from those, and we're closer in the right of way, but we're able to save those, but we're not able to save the on-lot trees. So that's just a further discussion that we can have on the impacts to the trees on lot and the public right of way.
Have you been looking for certified arborist opinion and the way how you can modify the?
No, I mean, I just got these comments on Friday, so that's the next step, is to bring an arborist on board and analyze the plan, then come back to you guys with what we can do to make it work. There were some comments related to swapping BRLs and moving BRLs, but BRLs are set by zone. I mean, yes, we can swap a side, 12-foot here, 13-foot here, but 1-foot difference. But moving BRLs that are set by zone, how does that, are you just talking a more, is there a restrictive line, I guess? Is that what you're looking for? Or the LOD should set that?
So under the subdivision provisions, the planning board or director, if it were administrative, can impose more restrictive building restriction lines.
Or more than what zoning sets for?
Correct, yeah, but they would have the same effect as a traditionally set building restriction line.
Will staff provide what, if it's a 30-foot rear BRL, are you looking for a 40, 45, 42?
So there's provisions where the building restriction, there's a series in the subdivision regulations. There's descriptions of certain environmental features that would ideally be preserved, and it gives sort of a menu of ways they could be preserved. In here, say a conservation easement wouldn't be warranted, but whereas a building restriction line would offer a reasonable level of protection for, say, the some of the trees in the far back of the lot. And then I think Audio had mentioned some provisions in the forest conservation law regulations regarding some of the screening trees, where as part of exploring that, potentially the building restriction line could be established to help maintain some screen plantings between the properties.
Right. I understand the whole screening, mitigation, screening, replacing kind, same function as what was there now. But I guess, again, are you going to set that building restriction line?
Okay, right. So at this point, without having, as part of the overall comments, we're anticipating more information in the arborist input and more detailed information on the retaining walls and whether they're staying or going or how they would be modified.
So after we get with the arborist, come up with a plan, then you'll discuss.
Yeah, as part of the ongoing revisions, we would be determining what would be an appropriate building restriction line. At this point, it's a little too early to draw a line in the sand, so to speak.
In regards to the retaining walls, yes, it was not clear. My fault. I didn't add enough labels on there, but the intent was the dashed wall is the new wall, and where it ties into the existing is going to stay or be rebuilt in place. So there is a portion of that existing wall on the left side that would need to be replaced in place. And then the new wall would tie into that where it's needed. So I would clean that up with labels and graphics and notes to make that more clear. Understood the whole screening thing. We can talk about that, the notes. Other than that, I think it was pretty straightforward. Obviously, some coordination on the pathway, the extension of the pathway. As you mentioned, Marco, I just got the response to application from the Goldsboro folks yesterday morning, so I haven't had a chance to go into real depth on that. Is this something that you and I need to set up a meeting to review and see how it goes with staff comments? Or
sure, we could set up a meeting at any time, and I think internally we're going to have the staff was going to have a follow-up conversation with interested parties who wrote the letter, and but yeah, we can set up and meet to get into things further.
Yeah, I apologize. I mean, just having this yesterday morning, I haven't had a chance to really dig into it in depth to be able to respond to everything in here. I think some of this goes with, obviously, like you said, with your comments and whatnot. So with that, I don't really have anything else for today other than if you can give me, obviously we have 15 days to resubmit. That's probably not realistic given the side path and other comments.
Yeah, so I could highlight some of the target schedule dates, assuming that if there's no extension, the planning board date would be July 2nd. To get there, the first resubmittal would be March 8th. Final May. That would be first resubmittal, May 8th. Final resubmittal, May 18th. And the staff report would post June 22nd. Again, that's assuming there are no extensions, but yeah, it does seem pretty tight.
One other comment, if I can clarify, is the tree save plan. My understanding was the forest conservation plan acts as that plan. What's going to be different on a tree save plan versus the final forest conservation plan if we're still showing the tree protection measures and stuff like that? Or is the tree save plan something, obviously this is all conceptual right now, subject to change in building permit, actual house types, grading, driveways, etc. Would the tree save plan be a condition of building permit to, once we actually come up with design plans? Or is that part of the forest conservation plan set?
It is not part because you do have an exemption. So for so basically the forest conservation plan is based on LOD. So you have to do afforestation and reforestation, but the tree save plan is basically narrowing what you have here, not considered the LOD. So the report that you have to create, or the arborist in this case, is like if you have to use specific measurements of all those trees that are right next to the site path, he will have to provide, specific details, and he will have to sign that report basically. So we can show you some of the tree save plans that we have used in the past if you need to see those
in conjunction with the final forest conservation plan.
So no forest conservation plan. So you either have a exemption or a forest conservation plan.
How do I have an exemption?
So you have to apply for it.
But I don't qualify.
And therefore, then you have to have a forest conservation plan.
Okay, so the tree save plan is you. Okay. Just want to make sure that I'm not getting those confused because we want to qualify for exemption, but we don't. That's why we submitted the F application.
So the forest conservation plan will have to have still the signature by the arborist and the.
Gotcha. So tree save plan isn't needed. Forest conservation plan.
Afforestation, reforestation, all those details.
Okay. Clear. Okay, I think that's all I have. If we can talk later regarding the side path, once we get an arborist on board, we'll coordinate with you guys on more restrictive BRLs, screening, and what else is needed for that. And then dig into the response to the citizens report here.
Sounds good.
Okay. All I have.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Woodside Park, 9006 Colesville Road. My name is Christina Sorrento, and I'm the Chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division. I believe your lead reviewer is Adam Bossy. Thanks for pulling up the plan, Adam. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Adam will highlight any of the major issues, and we'll turn it over to the applicant. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Christina. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Sorry for dropping off right as we're starting the meeting. Gotta love technology. So this is a 2-lot subdivision proposed at 9006 Colesville Road, and just outside of downtown Silver Spring. Comments were transmitted to the applicant and their engineer last Friday. The major issues kind of fall into 3 categories. First one being Colesville Road frontage. There's some dedication, some frontage improvement comments that are out there. We had a series of environmental comments, such as we need a noise analysis, stormwater management concepts still in the works, and there are some master plan environmental recommendations to address. Third category has to do with just kind of general use and design questions. Like if you're subdividing the property, proposing a second house where there's the existing gravel parking lot for the existing house that's being used as a church, well, what's the plan for the church? What's the plan for the parking? With that, I saw Mike, the applicant's engineer, is here. I will turn it over to him to start asking some questions of staff. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Mike Razavi at Rastec Associates. I hope you're all well. I do have some questions regarding the comments we received and some sort of clarifications and things like that. My first question is regarding the transportation change mark trans 03 requiring an 11-foot side path and 8-foot street buffer along the frontage. I understand that we will have to do a dedication based on the ultimate right-of-way of 120 feet. My question is this. This area is pretty well developed, and providing the side path and street buffer, I'm concerned about connection of those improvements to existing improvements, which are basically, I believe, a 4-foot sidewalk and a smaller buffer that is already at the frontage of this and the neighboring, more importantly, the neighboring property. So how does that tie in? You know, it's kind of like, because it's a small project, it ends up being an oddball thing out there. So that's my first question.
And Katie, are you available right now? Mike, we might need to come back to that question. I know Katie Mancarini is in the meeting, but she's doing double duty at the moment, so she might not be able to join us at the moment, but
okay.
We can circle back to that one.
Okay. Second question is environment. There's a couple environmental questions I have. The first question is regarding change mark note 3 about the removal of parking spaces. My question is this. On this particular subdivision plan, would it be sufficient to just point out that the existing parking will be removed, you know, at the time of permitting or prior to permitting of any new future construction?
So this is Marco Fistrati, the environmental review for this project. Right. Anyway, so the master plan has some language about reducing impervious surfaces or increasing permeable areas. So, right, the site has extensive parking. I think it's generally in the LOD, and that there's a prepared specification I could send you. Ideally, you would have that on the plan. That answers your question.
So it would be just a matter of adding that specification to the plan, or do you want us to do something more than that?
I'm so sorry.
Adding the spec on the plan and showing the areas where it would apply to.
Okay,
I-
please send them then. I think
Yeah,
you have
where,
my email.
Right, yeah, and there's some examples of other projects. They typically have an inset showing where that would apply to. I could send you an example or two, yeah.
Thank you, Marco. Appreciate it. Next question is about change mark note 9 regarding need for an arborist. You talk about a 25-inch DBH silver maple on the site. Could you, as you know, we did an NRI plan for this that was approved some time ago. Most of the trees that I recall on the NRI, I looked at it yesterday also just to refresh my memory, are basically on the edges of the site or off site. And from what I can tell, we're nowhere close to any of them in terms of the future proposed disturbance. So could you elaborate what you need on that? Do you truly need an arborist for something on the site other than those trees that we're staying fairly clear of?
So the master plan also has language about applying urban forestry practices and exploring ways to preserve trees through the subdivision process. On the north boundary there, in particular, that's where the 25-inch maple is, and a row of cherry trees, which are near the LOD as proposed, and just like to explore some adjustments to the LOD or other measures that might help preserve those trees if possible.
So what would you like to see in terms of moving this particular plan forward? In terms of just show it on the administrative subdivision plan when we revise it?
Right, as part of the plans, they would have ideally show the arborist recommendations and any fine tuning of the LOD or other measures that they might recommend.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Mike, this is Katie. I'm sorry I missed the first half. It sounds like you have some questions about maybe the side path or some of the frontage improvements.
Yeah. Hi, Katie. How are you? My
Good,
question
thanks.
was regarding your comment about having a on Colesville Road. I know we have to do a dedication, but having
Yeah.
a 11-foot side path and 8-foot street buffer. So my question was, given that this area is pretty well developed, is there how would that connect to existing facilities or existing improvements, I should say? How would that tie in? Is it more obstructive to have that, or I'm not sure what the end result would be. I just wanted to get your opinion and some feedback from you.
Absolutely. No, this is a great question. So, and forgive me, I might give you more information than you're looking for.
Okay.
So in 2021, we adopted the complete street design guide, which set certain frontage improvements based on street classifications. So Colesville Road, yes, it does have a sidewalk out there today, but it's insufficient, and we consider it not safe and comfortable for what the goals that we're trying to achieve. So when new development comes in, you have to make a finding for compliance with master plans, and the complete streets design guide is treated in that same way. And that's why the comment was made. So what you would be doing is you would be installing the side path, and it would tie into the sidewalk on either ends of your property. So it does need to tie into the existing facility, but you would remove that portion that is of the sidewalk that's along the site frontage and replace it with a side path. So we would be looking for that on your resubmittal and how you're achieving that.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for the question.
I'll get back to my next question about environmental. Marco, you say that need a noise analysis to be proposed due to proposed residential use along major roadway corridor.
Right. Per the noise guidelines for development in Montgomery County, when you're proposing the new residential uses next to busy roadway, there's certain definitions, but this certainly meets it. It's a major roadway and you're fronting right next to it. Whereas if you were a certain distance away, you wouldn't be subject. But new house that close to such a major roadway, you're subject to the noise guidelines.
Okay. Is that something that's needed at subdivision or something that they could present when they do their permitting?
It would be something we would be looking at as part of the subdivision. And then there'd be a standard set of conditions, standard conditions of approval related to noise would be recommended for the project.
Okay. My next question is from Adam. Adam, on your comment about check maximum allowable lot coverage with residential infill, my understanding has always been that when you go through subdivision, the requirements you're supposed to meet are the regular zoning requirements, not infill requirements. That would be in situations where, and this is my understanding, that would be in situations where you're building or constructing something outside of the subdivision regs. Like, for example, if you don't need to go to the subdivision and it's already a recorded lot. Prior to 1978, I guess, recorded prior to 1978. Could you confirm that so we know where we stand?
Yeah, I think that's another great question and one that I don't have an answer for you right now, but I'd have to check into it and get back to you on it. Yeah,
Okay.
I haven't had the question posed to me before, so I'm just not sure what the answer is. If one of my colleagues does, they can feel free to chime in. Otherwise, I'll have to follow up with you on that one.
Will do, no problem. And finally, regarding WSSC comment, it says existing water mains are not shown on the plan. I just want to let you know they are shown on the plan. In fact, there's two of them shown on the plan, as well as a sewer line. Just to clear that up. And that's all I got.
Yes, I'm showing, but they are showing incorrectly. So I mark it up in the plan.
Okay, please do.
I did.
Okay, we'll follow up.
All right. Mike, did you have any other questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else have any other comments? Nope. All right, cool. So coming out of this meeting, just some due dates looking to the future here. So Mike, you have our comments. You can certainly feel free to follow up more with us, and I will be following up with you to answer your question. Your first resubmission is going to be due on May 8th. Our comments back to you on that are going to be due May 17th, I believe it is. Actually, let me check that date. I think I have it noted wrong. Sorry, I'll send out an email reporting dates back out to those because I think my notes are a little goofy here. I apologize, but we are working toward ultimately a planning director decision, or if there are comments that we hear from the community that are of concern, we'd be looking at a planning board hearing date of June 27th. Again, I'll send out a follow-up email to everybody. Thanks for everyone's help today.
Okay, just one last thing, Adam. We may have to apply for an extension because there are a couple of items that we'd have to get outside contractors to subs to take care of. So I think 2 weeks may not be enough time, but I'll talk to you about that outside this meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
I'm Christina Sorrento. I'm the Chief of the Intake and Regulatory Coordination Division, and this is the DRC meeting for 11117 Waycroft Way. Your lead reviewer is Tamika Graham, and this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Tamika will highlight any of the major items we should discuss and then turn it over to you. So go ahead, Tamika.
Good morning, everyone. I first will start with the project schedule, just so we make sure we get the dates on everyone's radar. This will require another submission, which would be due May 13th. And for the agencies online, the letters would be due May 28th. And then we had a date saved for the planning award, which would be June 27th. And so this is likely to be deferred to the planning board because of the comments that we've already received, for that requirement, switching from the administrative review to planning board review. So June 27th. Just a couple of comments that I'll just highlight. Just from a zoning perspective, we do concur that, what you're proposing for the 2 lots is consistent with zoning. You are showing that you're preferring to use the established building line instead of the front setback from the zone, which is fine, but we're just asking that you show, the adjacent properties that you're using to establish that setback. I think some of the other main things we wanted to highlight is with the transportation and the connectivity. So you probably saw a couple of comments from different folks about the ownership of the road. It is publicly owned, privately maintained. So we do need to have that consistent across all of the sheets. We also noted that there is an existing stairway connection on the property connecting into the Bethesda Trolley Trail.
It's on the park property.
On the park property.
It's not on the subject property.
Not on the subject property. Through this project, we would still like, that neighborhood connectivity to be maintained. So whether we're talking about an easement, where appropriate, connecting through the property to the park property, we would like to see that continue to be maintained. You also saw some of our comments about, capitalizing on some of the opportunities to improve the relationship between the 2 new homes with the street. So, addressing the length width of the driveways, trying to tighten them up or consolidate them, even if you can do that. Also addressing the tightening of the driveway aprons as well. We also had some comments about, and I know this is a little bit beyond, like the lots and the bulk controls for subdivisions, but we would also like you to consider, how the front of the homes speak to the street. So, shifting the garages back to the rear, making, a front porch more prominent, things like that. And as you know, already heard from members within the neighborhood. So I think if you can illustrate or communicate what you're planning to do from that perspective, I think it'll really help go a long way for the community to understand.
Did we do that at the board, or because we don't want to get into detailed footprints for a subdivision?
No, we understand that that's not a submission requirement for this application type, but if you have an idea of what you're planning and intent to be able to communicate that, I think would be helpful.
Okay.
I think those were some of our, at least the high level concerns that we had. I think one of the other, and just along the lines of just trying to get whatever other information that you have out to the public. If there's a active community association. So that might be an opportunity for you to share
The
that.
applicants have met with the HOA.
Oh,
The
okay.
these are the two applicants. And the HOA also posted the notification list on their website. So people are very familiar with that. I believe they almost every day emailed out for people to respond.
Not a website, the group.
Or a listserv. I'm sorry, a listserv. Yes.
They emailed a couple of times and even had your contact published, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So
Yeah.
that's-
So that has
Wow,
been, and
you're
like I
already
said,
doing-
they have met with the HOA
Early
regarding the
February,
project.
yes, even before we.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, because the pre-commissions.
Yeah, and there was confusion on the roads because when you come in, it actually says private drive, no trespassing. When you enter the community, it says private road. So now we do understand that it's public road privately maintained. So I guess we have a couple of questions, concerns about I guess mainly the right-of-way improvements that are being requested.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. That was the other.
That's a big one.
Yeah, the big one. Yes, the sidewalk.
So all of that, when you have a community that is substandard to begin with, I don't think that we should be installing, or how does that work? Where we're being requested to improve one section of road where the community itself, the entire community road system is substandard. And it will.
I was going to say, this is Rebecca from DOT. So let me ask you, so you're talking about sidewalk, or are you talking about, like, it looks like you have to widen the pavement, or is that not correct?
Yeah, that, I guess I can kind of speak to that. That pavement section is being widened for fire access because it is not, again, as you probably know, for the community, the roads are not and is not standard. So the way that we worked out the fire access was to widen it to 20 feet between the driveways to get the T turnaround to work.
So is Marie on the call?
Yeah, I'm here. They're creating essentially an operational bay, and you're adding a hydrant there too, correct? It's all supposed to be in that same area.
We are not installing a hydrant. There's one out there.
Okay, as long as it's where you're widening the pavement, which I believe
Right.
it is. Yeah, okay. So,
So Marie, you don't care, how do we know that that road was built to public road standard? You don't have that concern?
I don't think.
Well, that's
the road
Marie.
is, yeah, if the road is functional, I don't usually have an issue. I mean, the only concern I would have is subgrade. Does it meet load bearing for tertiary road subgrade? And I guess I kind of rely on the engineers to certify that those existing roads do. That's a definite question, I suppose.
So then somebody's asking for a sidewalk, and forgive me for not knowing who's asking for sidewalk. You know, does the sidewalk connect to anything?
Well, I guess can I just want to continue for 1 second, Rebecca? Okay. Not only the sidewalk being requested, but a swale, a 9-foot buffer, basically it's not going to function out. We can't install a swale to nowhere. So we can't actually install the section that's being requested for this portion of the road. That's my concern. So it's the complete street section that's being requested. And that's basically the whole area. It's just pavement right now. It's open section road throughout the entire community. And as far as I know, the community is a substandard, which is why it's not being maintained publicly.
Right. I mean, I don't know exactly, you know, we did this, these roads are old and a lot of times, so I'm not exactly sure of why the road is not maintained. But I know we have those. So
Right.
we can discuss further and talk about whether or not we are asking for that cross section. I will say, sometimes we do ask for the sidewalk to be shown and you would just provide
Right.
a cost estimate. So that might be the case for this project.
Well, that was going to be my next question is we would not pay any of the waivers because the HOA is the one that's maintaining the roads. Why would we pay to the county for a road system that the HOA is actually collecting money to maintain? It gets really, I think we need to maybe talk about this a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that's what so that's the big issue that I see. And also one of the questions to keep going for a second, Rebecca, is multiple times, I think maybe 3 times in here, 3 different staff are requesting the public access from the end of Waycroft to a connection to the Bethesda trolley trail. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. There's about 14-foot grade change at the end of Waycroft to the Bethesda trolley trail, and it's also park property. What we wanted to point out is, I'm not sure if we can maybe pull open an aerial that you had earlier. If you zoom out just a little bit down to Golf Lane. So there's one way in, yeah, if you zoom down a little, right at the end of Golf Lane is actually the ADA access for the community into the Bethesda trolley trail. So there's really, I don't necessarily agree that there's a connection need at the end of Waycroft when you have one at the end of Golf. So I just wanted to kind of point that out as well.
Where's Waycroft?
It's quite a distance. So I think it was at the
It's less than
intent to
half
try
a
and
mile.
break down the block for pedestrians.
But only half the community, so when the community comes in, they would have to decide, do they want to go up to the connection that you're asking us to install? Or would they go down to the one that's already existing that's ADA? I don't think we'd be able to get ADA access is going to be the issue. And I don't think Parks is going to allow us to put a set of stairs on their property. Is where I'm kind of starting to get a little.
Was to consider it and to explore it.
Okay.
Because I think we would like to see the connection, but if it's not feasible, I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to understand, are we expecting that to be ADA, a set of stairs? How, I don't think ADA would work.
Well, I don't know if Henry's on, but I talked to Henry. Is it Parks property?
I believe it is park for the Bethesda trolley trail, I believe is Parks owned. So it'd be a Parks permit.
Also thought that connection would be helpful. Henry's with Parks. I don't know if he's on the call, but I think it is worth.
We can definitely have, I just wanted to maybe explain that there is a connection already in the community that is ADA. Also, I don't hesitate to say all, but most of the houses along the Bethesda trolley trail have the same condition where they all have gates and stairs down to, I think there's 9 of them, private gates along this whole, so it's not really any different than what we have. We can't abandon what's there either because we don't own it. We being them. So we're kind of a little bit of trying to maybe understand that a little bit more.
So if you could do this, if you could put together a list of questions.
Yeah.
And then not next Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, we can meet and maybe get some things resolved.
Okay. We don't want to do the easement onto, I think that just creates a whole different set of issues. Having an easement for the public to go onto the private property, so we hesitate to do that.
Where would the easement be?
Well, if you go back to the drawing, Tamika, there was a request from Waycroft to run the easement. I apologize why we don't have the stairs on the park property, but there was one of the requests was to have a public easement from Waycroft to the existing stairs that are on the park property. So basically parallel to our property is what the request was for. Maybe I can highlight that in a drawing to kind of maybe put all of this together and then what our concerns are with it. Yeah, and maybe we can kind of go from there and maybe point out where the ADA is and some dimensions. Maybe there's a little bit more that we can put together for that. So
does Waycroft end and then it becomes Parks property?
Waycroft stops. Yeah, basically Waycroft stops at the western edge of the driveway that we have shown. Just dead ends right there. And then there's basically just lawn, trees, vegetation down to the park property.
The set of stairs you just mentioned, is it at the end of Maycroft? Or?
I could walk up there and point to it, but I don't think Rebecca can see me.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, so, I mean, I see your property. So Waycroft dead ends basically.
Yeah, I can, maybe, I think you can, I don't know if you can see me or not, but this is the edge of the county right, I don't want to touch this, at the edge right here, this is park property, this direction. The edge of pavement for Waycroft stops here.
That's 2/3 the way up.
And the steps are along Waycroft, are along the private property up here.
Where they,
It's almost
I
at
didn't-
the end of the. Right, along, right, if you keep panning up. So the request was to possibly have, an easement along the edge of our property, which I also want to talk about some more easements that we need to figure out. So that was one of the requests, was to possibly have a public easement or to provide the access from the end of Waycroft. So maybe there's, if I understand that correctly, two different ways of looking at it.
Yeah, I think the intent of the comment was to try and make a connection.
Some sort of
So if there's
connectivity.
concerns and limitations, I think we just need more information on why that should be
Okay.
accommodated.
Okay. So should I put everyone, Rebecca, should I link all of us up maybe just in an email and get a drawing out to you guys?
yeah, you can do that. I think like I said, we usually schedule these, it's not the following week or am I wrong?
It is the following week.
Can we schedule it the week after that? In 2 weeks or no?
2 weeks is DRC.
Okay.
Because the pre-DRC is the opposite week, Monday. It'll be next Monday.
Yeah, I don't know that we have, I don't know that we'll have enough time to get more information. So that's my only concern. But you send us an email with the information and question, and then we can just schedule something outside of that if we need to.
Okay, that would be helpful. Because we're gonna have to file an extension at that point. Which I'm sure you guys probably already know.
13th is, yeah.
Yeah.
Right around.
So that's one of our, I think that's our major concerns, how we would resolve something like that. Is WSSC on the call by any chance?
Yes.
So we have a lot, not a lot of questions, but on the on the west side where we're looking at the drawing right now, there is, that used to be a section of right of way that was abandoned. And it's under the ownership of the applicant right now. There is a water line that is in that road, in that section of property. There's also a gas line. The gas line, the water line do not run parallel to each other or to the property lines. The gas line has a 10-foot easement associated with it. The water line has no easement associated with it. And that's one of our questions is, how should we resolve the water line running through the private property that is connecting back to Edson Lane? We're not going to be able to provide a standard 20-foot easement for that existing water line because of the location of the gas line and the gas line easement.
So that is a conversation that we will need to have. This PI from 1952. So at that time, we don't have easement for the time, like in some of our PIs. So that is a conversation that we will need to have internally with you guys.
We think we have a solution. Maybe we can mark something up and send that to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
but we will need to have some kind of easement.
Right, we can provide an easement. We think we can provide from the gas line is interior between the proposed house and the water line. So we think that we can take from the gas line easement west to the property line, we could provide a WSSC easement there. It's not going to be 20 feet wide in the full width of the property is the issue.
Okay. Yeah,
But
that
maybe we can put a sketch together for you as well.
exactly. And then because easements need to be reviewed too for our GCO and WSSC. So, but yes, we can work out something.
I think we
For
can.
this easement. Yeah.
Right, I think we can come up with a solution for that. I just wanted to point that out that we do have that issue.
Yeah, and if you start the process as fast as you can, it's better because take time to.
Can we email that? Can we email that to you directly, or do we need to go through the WSSC plans for that?
No. First, send it to me.
Okay, great.
Send it to me, and then I can talk internally before we go through the process. because this is a special situation.
Okay, yep, got it. Got it. Okay. All right, so I believe those are our big concerns, the same ones you guys have, basically. So is there anything else that we have, Nav, or? The driveway, if we cannot do 20, I did go through and look at the community, and there are several driveways that are 20 feet wide, including the neighbor across the street that was talking about. There's, if we can reduce it, but if we can't, is that just address that as a comment?
I think the reduction would be helpful.
Okay. Okay.
As it is.
Right.
We're following up with the frontage improvements and then the connection. It sounds like we're not going to use next Tuesday's scheduled time. So I'm wondering if we can figure out when we're going to talk about that. That'd be helpful.
I mean, we could turn around the sketch pretty quickly, but I don't know if you guys would have time to talk about it before Tuesday, before Monday is.
Sounds like DOT might need some more time.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if we can
get that on
the books.
When would you need something from us? And
Rebecca, what would work for you?
Christina, this is a T. Can I ask a question about the WCC easement?
Sure.
What was that easement supposed to be? I'm not really sure. This is a T from DPS.
It is a existing water main.
there's an existing water main on the private property that does not have an easement, and we're anticipating the need for an easement as part of the plating process.
Uh-huh.
And we're trying to resolve that that the water line is not going to be able to sit within a 20-foot easement in the center of a 20-foot easement. We think that there's going to be a little bit of, it's going to be a little unique, but we think it's constrained by the western property line that you're looking at right now, and also the gas line that is east of the water line. I mean, we could possibly pull the color-coded utility plan would maybe have it.
Yeah, that will help.
Yeah, if we have time still. I'm not sure if we.
You have time.
I was looking at the sewer line, looks like it's like diagonal.
No, this is the water line.
Yeah, it's the water line. I don't think there's sewer. There's no sewer there's no sewer on the subject property. Yeah, if we zoom in on that western side.
No, I was talking about the connection. You have an LOD around the sewer in the pavement section that's diagonal, right?
That is, yeah.
Is that permitted?
That's because it ends right, the sewer line ends right there.
Right. I didn't know if we allowed that or not. I thought it had to be perpendicular.
Well, we prefer perpendicular, but if it's existing, it's not a big deal.
We might be able to straighten that up. So what you see in the purple is the water line running north to south on the subject property. And then you'll see to the east a little bit is the existing gas line in purple as well. And we also are showing on there that 5 foot on either side is the existing gas easement. The water does not have an easement associated with it.
Okay.
So we were asking the question, how should we resolve knowing that we're going to need to provide an easement for that water line?
Right. Okay.
And you notice that they're not running. Yeah, the gas line is not parallel to the water. The water is not parallel to the property line. So it's going to be a little bit kind of screwy all through that whole section.
Right. Okay. My concern and my misunderstanding was that the easement is not needed within the public right-of-way, even though it's not maintained at this point by the county. Regardless, it's a public right-of-way, and they don't need a easement within the public right-of-way.
We're talking about on the subject property, though.
I
Yes.
understand.
Oh, okay. Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So when that line, I guess when that portion of right-of-way was abandoned, there were no easements created as part of, I guess, that abandonment process.
Yeah.
Is what it appears to be.
Yeah, you're right. At that time, WCC should have asked for an easement.
Right, and so we're just pointing that out, that we would rather address it now.
Sure, that makes sense. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep. I think that's an easier question than the access.
Rebecca, how much time do you need before you can meet?
I don't know. Brenda's out of town today, so she'll be back tomorrow. We might be able to meet next Tuesday. Just put it on the schedule for next Tuesday, and then and if we can't get to it, we can always cancel.
Okay,
Parks should also be part of that conversation. So
parks too.
Yeah.
So DOT, planning and parks.
You can include DPS as well.
Like Sam.
Yeah, please include Sam.
So we can get a sketch to you guys probably by the end of the day tomorrow, then I guess it sounds like. So, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, guys, I think that's all we have.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.